I'm joined today by Dan Chamberlain, who I've had the pleasure of knowing a number of years and who I consider a dear friend. From leading engineering teams at Minnesota-based Fortune 500 companies such as Thomson Reuters, Best Buy, and Target, Dan has been one who has led, built, and nurtured teams from the ground up. Dan, I'm so grateful you're in my orbit. Thank you so much for joining me today on Cupalo Conversations.
Thanks for having me. Super excited, a little bit nervous, but looking forward to talking about this stuff. So
Good. Well, before we dive into what I would love to explore today, the journey of being a software engineer, I would love to know first, how did you get into technology? How did you find this career path?
oh my gosh, bringing back memories from middle school. Okay, I'm going to go geeky here for a minute.
Do it.
Being vulnerable here. We got a computer in, ninth grade. And we got IRC. AOL was the start. And I ran up that bill so high. Chatting, everything, you named it, found everything out. Then we got IRC, and it opened my eyes to talking to the world. And oh my gosh, I can talk to people that say they're from another country. Mind blown. A little fun thing I remember from that time was a friend in high school's IRC name. It was Satan Hack. We were so badass. And that got me into technology, like the things you could do. And then I started really getting into hardware and like reading about technology, hardware, how it worked. Got a high school internship at the school building the website. I wasn't a great student, so that took a lot of work. I was a horrible student, but I loved this stuff. Went to college for it. Had a bumpy start to it. Calculus and physics weren't my thing, so I learned through that. And kind of had that love-hate relationship with it. I love it, but gosh, the schooling for this is super rigorous, and I'm making this too hard. And then I got my first job, and from there it was just fun. Working with people, I realized it was a team effort. You were working in teams to get stuff done, which I'm an extrovert, so I love that. And that ability to like take an idea and turn it into something that you can say, I did that. And the instant gratification you always got, those dopamine hits of like, check something into production, it's working, people are using it. Even feedback that it sucked was a dopamine hit. Like, oh, you used it. Oh, okay, I can fix that for you. So that's what really got me really going into it from the beginning of just the journey of getting a computer till now. And we always joke that in my family, the Chamberlains are all mind. They use their mind. They're not carpenters or anything. They can't use their hands, but they can use their mind. So we're all technologists.
That's awesome. Well, good for you. Kudos for sticking it out, because I wanted to be a brain surgeon, but I took one biology class, got a D+ in college, and decided, nope, I think I'll go with English literature. So good for you for sticking it out.
It's pivot. Just right next on the list. English literature, I got it.
Yep. So Anyway, well, as I mentioned, the journey of the engineer, and you touched on this already in sharing how you got into it, because you love solving problems. You love getting that dopamine rush of having built something, and maybe not with your hands like a carpenter, but with your mind, right? And with your hands on a keyboard. But as we look at corporate America and kind of the progression of the software engineer, it goes from, to your point, you're building something, you're shipping something, you're seeing something go out to the wild. You get a promotion to team lead, then you get promoted to an engineering manager, director, and so on and so forth. And it seems like the natural progression is actually pulling you away from your craft. And I want to know, is there enough pathways in the corporate structure to support an engineer?
I think the structure is there. I think it's something we constantly wrestle with. But people also have to understand, are they doing it for money or doing it for something they enjoy? There is the progression of like, every organization stops at a certain level. You will reach the highest level at some point. If that's a principal engineer, distinguished engineer, they might put senior in front of that just so there's more money, but eventually you stop. There's nothing else to do. You're at the highest level. So you got to take a step back and say, what does progression mean to me? I can be a lead engineer and move to other teams and have impact and do business things and make an impact and be really, really happy. I'm not going to get a 75% raise or anything, but that's okay. I enjoy what I'm doing. So I think that's how we have to look at careers. And I know that's so cliche, but someone who's been through it and knows, like, the higher up you go, the more challenges there are. They're bigger challenges. They have a lot more impact. Sometimes they move really slow. Like, my direction and decisions might take a year to implement, whereas an engineer, senior engineer, lead engineer, principal engineer who's coding, they might see progress every single day.
I loved what you said about the fact that you have to know what progression means for you. If it's money, if it's furthering skill sets, if it's the title. I mean, I think that there's a lot of components that go into it.
There is, and it's so cliche, but it really, really is. And we all have to know what's in it for us. So, if you're driven by money, maybe you're a contractor then, and you run your own business and you set your own rates and you can keep raising them. Cool. You can be a very, very successful engineer doing that and seeing the world and seeing different businesses.
Yeah.
Or maybe you want to be inside of a company and you're like, I have a passion for leading people and I want to feel like I can make bigger decisions, having a bigger seat at the table, which not always true, but I want to feel that. So that's the path I go, because I want to do that, not because it comes with a 10% pay increase and maybe a bigger bonus, or maybe people will listen to me more because I have a title. Doesn't usually work that way.
With that in mind, for those types of people who, in order to make more money, because that's why we go to work to make money,
Yep.
We shouldn't be ashamed of that. But in order to make more money, you have to move into that type of people manager role. What would you say to someone who that really goes against their grain? I guess, what advice do you have for them who love the craft of engineering and don't want to manage people, but that's the only path that seems for them? Maybe in their company, would you recommend they leave? Or
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, if you want to make more money, so I've been a contractor, I've been full time, I've been everything. I've always told people, if I were to go back to be an engineer and want to make more money, I'd be an independent contractor or have my own company. End of discussion. That's it. Because you set the rate. You're in control.
Yeah, control is a big component of this. And I think,
Yeah.
going back to the craft and the passion for it, how do you stay in love with this craft? It seems, from an outsider's perspective, my perspective, that there's a lot of pressure to constantly be on the bleeding edge, as they say, of technology, to constantly be learning. Not that learning is a bad thing. I love learning, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of pressure to keep progressing and keep your knowledge of technology the latest and greatest. How do you stay in love with your craft in an ever evolving landscape, and how do you either lean into that pressure or buffer yourself against it?
Yeah. There is a lot of pressure. And the funny thing I say to engineers is, what's old is new again. So there's nothing new under the sun. So while the list of technologies grows, the fundamentals are the same. Years ago, probably 12 years ago, I worked on a big project at Thomson Reuters, and it was machine learning. Before this whole AI thing we're going on now, we were using machine learning on natural language text to do a lot of stuff. We were using that. We had Google coming in asking us how we were using these clustering algorithms at the time. We were using NoSQL before it was called NoSQL. We were using things that we're doing in React that are being done today, and micro front ends and all these buzzwords that didn't have names just because they were the right way to do things. And here we are 12 years later, and people think they're new, and they're not. It's just a rebranding of what people have been doing. So if you understand the fundamentals, you've been in technology long enough, you start to see the patterns. And our job is a lot of patterns. So while the technology list is there, and a lot of people put those technologies on there to weed people out, most of them don't use all of them. They just put them on there. If you're a skilled engineer, you can learn them pretty quick because they haven't changed that much in 30 years. That's the way I look at it. Someone else will probably tell me I'm bullcrap, but I can tell you right now, give me a week, I'll pick up a new language or a new tech stack, no problem, because it's the same as it used to be. I think the pressure comes because it's easier to shrink your candidate pool. When someone goes out and looks at a job posting, especially nowadays, there's like 25 requirements. And it just makes it easier to deter people from applying. And then once you get in the job, you realize they don't use those things, or they might use them a little tiny bit, or they're really bad at them because they're just resume-driven development. For me, when I was an engineer, I was doing everything. So I think I've told you about this. Like, I had a burnout point. So this was at that time where learning the machine learning, the NoSQL, I was doing JavaScript, Java, a lot of these things. And then on my nights, I was learning Scala, Clojure, Haskell. And then one day I just went, I'm done. Like, it's all the same. Like, to me, it's just the same stuff. I'm tired. So then I was like, well, I really like leading people. I really love mentoring. I really like thinking about strategy. Could I lead people and still be somewhat close to technology, but lead people? And that's why I made the shift, because I like mentoring and teaching.
Yeah. Oh, it's great that I think it is actually a positive then for a lot of people like yourself who maybe get to a point with their craft that they are a little burnt out, and you've recognized, you've seen all the patterns, and you've challenged yourself to learn a lot of different things in this component, and then switching into the lane of leading people. That's a whole other muscle that you have to develop, and that's exciting. So I'm really curious, something that seems kind of a bit divisive actually around this is how hands on, how much should your hands be in the code base? Because I will talk to some people, and again, this is me being a total outsider here.
Mhm.
I'll talk to people who think that the CTO should still be doing X number of code commits a year. And then I'll talk to someone else who says any engineering manager and above, so manager, director, right? They should absolutely not be doing anything. And that's taking away from their responsibilities as a people leader and the other strategic decisions that need to be made. Where do you fall? What, because it feels like there's two camps, maybe there's more, but where do you tend to fall in that?
Oh, that's a really, really good question, and something I've went back and forth on. So I would say, I think company size plays into it. So a small company, getting their feet wet, trying to build something, I think you need a very, very technical hands-on CTO because they're laying the foundation. That's what they're there to do. Get that going and scale. You'll see this in companies once they reach a certain point, that person leaves the job because it's beyond their skill set to actually lead an organization. They're the hands-on technical person that built that. Maybe they go to chief architect or something, just whatever that is as a company grows. In large companies, it's a balance again. Like when I came in, so when I was at Bluestem as an architect, I needed to be in the code to make sure what I was talking about was actually real, and that I had the trust of the engineers to know what we were building. And I can hear from them that something was stupid if it was stupid, right? Like they got to look at me and say, Dan, that's not going to work, and here's why, and then we can work on solving it. As a manager and then a director, I felt my main job was to remove roadblocks, to and also help people in their career growth. When I started as a manager, I was like, if it were me, I don't think I would want my manager coding with me every day, because they're not looking out for me and they're not staying ahead of what's coming. And also they might turn into a roadblock to get a feature done. And then as a manager, everyone's going to look at me for is something good enough to go or not. And I want them to own that decision. This is what good looks like. This is what quality means. These are the features we want to build. I think there's a phrase I've heard: leaders want to be led. So tell me where you need me. What do you need me to go blow up? What do I need to say no to? I love that more than anything now, is going to say no. So the other flip side of that is I need to stay somewhat involved to understand what we're building. And so I do that by code reviews. I do that by demos. I do that by architecture reviews. I help drive the architecture, push back on things we need to think about. You also need to do that to understand where your talent is and where their skill sets lie, so you can help steer the ship for them. So in some cases, you might be looking at, hey, we need a principal engineer, or we would love to get someone into this role. Well, I need to know the talent to understand if someone is capable of that or ready to take on that responsibility, or do we train them to be ready for it? So I need to be hands-on and deep enough to understand those kind of things, but not enough where I'm going to go in and code. Like I said, if I wanted to be a coder, I would be doing this as a contract and I'd be a coder. End of discussion. It's not what I'm doing right now. And if they wanted me to do that, I'll $300 an hour. I'm glad to be in there for you. But that's how I view it. Some other people view it differently, which is great. But for me to be an effective leader, I can't be in the code all the time. And I can't be telling them how to do their job. I need to set guardrails and be aligned to them and let them grow.
Yeah, I think that's great. I also appreciate that you did draw the distinction between, a smaller startup company is going to be very different than a Fortune 500 company and how their leadership is aligned to that. So,
Yeah.
with regards to, you mentioned mentorship, and you really love, cultivating and nurturing your teams to be able to grow and figure out what's next for them. Speaking of what's next for them, I would love to talk about the next generation of engineers, because I've had a lot of, I would say unfortunately, but maybe this is just sobering, but there's been a lot of discussions I've had recently with people about how screwed the next generation of engineers are. And it's a lot of doom and gloom that I've heard around, we're not going to need to bring in a junior, staff, because ultimately we're going to have AI to replace them, and we're just going to need mid and principal level or senior engineers. I feel like 3 years ago, there was a gold rush of people getting into engineering. There was boot camps cropping up everywhere, and people were excited about the opportunity to do this. And I feel this shift in the wind, and I'm curious, what do you think is ahead of us for the next generation? And what are you as an engineering leader thinking about? Because there's a pragmatic consideration as well to this too.
Being scared sells. Doom and gloom sells. A couple things, and I am going to go tangential here because
Do it.
what's old is new, and this is the theme. 1999, 2000. You don't need a 4-year degree. Go to a 2-year technical school. Go get a job as a software engineer. Everyone needs everyone in technology. You don't need a 4-year degree. 2001, hit a brick wall. Massive layoffs. Everyone's out of the market. Companies failing left and right. Boom. We're all screwed. We're all going to die. 2002, 2003, you need a 4-year degree. You need these types of skills. You have to do this. This is what's required. Get to 2008. Boom. World falls apart again. In a different segment, technology is pretty safe. Free money, low interest, companies building everywhere. What you talked about 3 years ago at boot camps was my 2000 getting a 2-year degree. Go do this. It's the best career in the world. All you have to do is go do a 6-month boot camp. We will do everything you need. We need people. Boom. Hit the pandemic. Now you need to be a senior engineer and you need to meet all these requirements. It's the cycle of all of this stuff. I've seen it multiple times and I laugh at it. The other one, COBOL's still around, isn't it? Banks still use COBOL. They told people it was dead. Guess who's making bank writing COBOL and working part-time? People that know it. That hasn't gone anywhere. I mean, companies are still trying to get it out of their system, still trying to get rid of mainframes. Not going anywhere. So I think it's doom and gloom. I think big companies need to have a new growth strategy and sell stuff. And this is what they're selling. And so will it make things simpler? Probably. Will it get half of the crap we hate doing off our plate? Probably. Do we know enough about it, how it's really going to work in the real world in life? No. Self-driving cars are supposed to be here. Elon Musk said, we'll have our self-driving cars. And I said, go try that in Bangalore and go test them in Minneapolis right now when it's snowing and you can't see the lines on the road. We're nowhere close to this stuff. So it makes us scared. It makes us fearful. It's not going to happen. The other tangential thing is we are in, and you've heard me say this, and it's fascinating to me, we are in a population decline. We are not making more people. And the stat I just pulled before this is from the Alliance of Lifetime Incomes Retirement, estimates that 4.1 million Americans retire each year from 2024 through 2027. We are at the point where there will be more 50 to 55-year-olds than there are younger generations. Who's going to do the work? This is happening all over the world. So the doom and gloom just doesn't add up to me.
Yeah.
There will be jobs. There will be things to do. There will be plenty to do. Companies do not move fast enough to take advantage of anything. They just don't. So there's old stuff there that has to be rewritten to take advantage of things. There always is. So while it feels scary right now, it'll be okay. I've seen it a couple times. You will be in demand. You probably won't be making $400,000 a year to start, which is totally fine and totally perfect. That's okay, but you will have jobs. Just get through the bump right now. Stop reading the news. Stop being panicked, and just, it'll be okay. Work on, if you're worried about it, start. Well, we had to do this in 2004. Build your code. Go do coding on the side. Go do stuff on nights and weekends. If that's what you feel you have to do to show you know something, go do it. It's so cheap to build an app now. Why not? It's going to cost you pennies. So long answer there, but I've seen it, been through it. We're in it again, and we're all going to be okay.
Well, thank you. I feel like Papa Dan just put us all at ease.
It's the reality of what I've seen it. It's what's old is new again, right? Like, yeah. We all think it's all new, and it's like, no, we've been through this. Nope, I've seen it. Oh, this time's different. Okay, tell me how. Because you need technology and you need people to manage. The other thing is, like, there's not many people that know about neural networks and the deep statistics and math that has to do these things. They just don't exist. So you're going to need something.
That's phenomenal advice. I think that a common theme outside of what's old is new, which I love that expression, but also, like, you have to know why you're doing this, because if you are just doing it because everyone's telling you should, or you're telling yourself this is the only way I'm going to make a living, then it can be very daunting when it is challenging. I know starting Cupalo, I was told by a lot of people who had never started a business that this should be easy. You can spin up a business overnight, right? There's so much free advice out there, and a lot of it is dog shit. And so when you finally do it and you know why you're doing it, it's easy to weather the storm. I think anybody who's considering getting into this, they have to know why, right? They have to know why they're getting into it and be willing to ride out some of the bumpiness
and put in the work. And if you enjoy any job, accounting, plumbing, electrician, like, be willing to put in the work. Nothing's easy. Nothing's just going to magically happen. And the people that show you that it's really easy, you got to be really skeptical about, because, as you know, like you said, and as I know and others, like, adulting's hard. And it's not as easy as a TikTok 3-minute video shows you how easy it is. They're trying to sell you a course. And yeah, like you said, just if you want to do it, it'll work out. Just, you got to work at it, and you have to want it. But I want to be careful that it's not like it has to be your passion. We went through that phase of the 2018, 2019, 2020, like, do something you're passionate about and life will fall into place. Well, it's not always true. Do something you like to do and you think you could do 40 hours a week, and then go have a life. So if you're good at it, you enjoy it, perfect. It doesn't have to be your passion. It doesn't have to be your calling. I don't think most people that are working in construction are like, it's my calling. It's like, I like it, I'm good at it, and I can make a really good living and have a great life. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. I think you have to find enough, like I don't love every facet of staffing, I'll tell you that much for free, but there's enough that I love that it does fill my bucket. But I ultimately do think we get disappointed when we try to shoehorn all these ideas, like, this has to be my dream job, has to make me a millionaire, it has to allow me to retire at 40, it also has to be meaningful and be mission driven, and you get overwhelmed thinking it has to be all these things. And a job is ultimately a job, but you should never be miserable or suffering through it for that. I think ultimately you should find something that brings you enough joy. Like, my favorite part of my job is meeting awesome people like you. I cannot believe I'm so lucky. There's so much other shit I do not like about it, and that's okay. That's part of it. It is worth it. It's worth it. I love horses. Shoveling horse shit, I actually enjoy. That might be somebody else's nightmare, but that's a component of loving a horse, right? You got to clean up their shit. So, like, that's like, I love my job, but there's horse shit to be cleaned up here too. So.
No, it's so true. And I I felt trapped. I think everyone did for a while of like, oh, you got to love it and all this. Like, well, maybe for some of us, we feel called to the mission of the business and you love that. Great. You feel drawn to the people. Like we all love going into a job where we just like the people too, right? We all get along. We do our best. Those are the big things. If it's shoveling shit, but man, you're just loving the people you're shoveling the shit with. So I mean, it circles back to young people because I was there, and as I see lots of new entrants, relax, it'll be okay. And if not, you can't do anything about it anyways.
What do you wish? So, two last questions here.
Yeah.
What do you wish you knew before you embarked down this journey? What do you wish you knew before you got into engineering? Is there anything that you wish you had known?
Oh, not anything I wish I'd known. I think I had a good piece of advice from a really good manager years ago because I was very, very driven. And I was wanting to be at a certain level at a certain age. And I'm still in touch with this person and forever grateful. It stuck with me for 20 years now, which was like a career is a long, 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 long journey. Relax. You take it easy and I was like, yeah, whatever. Get out of my way. But now when I look back and I'm like, it is very long and it up and down and turns and be open to everything. Don't be so narrow-minded in something you think you have to achieve because you miss so much. Just take the phone call, have the cup of coffee. I mean, for us, right? To have a cup of coffee, get to know each other, enjoy those things, and open up your mind to other options of things you can do. That was helpful in my 20s because it was boom, blinders on, and that was just like a enjoy the. That doesn't look like something you want to do, go talk to them. Maybe it is something you think you can do, and you're in a different area of your field. So not much. Wish I knew. It's just that those pieces of advice have been really helpful, which I try to use for people.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, and I have found that it is amazing what you don't know and then it shows up. So like you meet somebody and they blow your mind or they give you a book recommendation or
Yes, yeah,
they're doing something, right? They're doing something just totally kick ass and you're like, if I had never taken you up on that invite, I never would have met you. I never would have
yep.
learned that thing. So that's a great piece of advice. I think
I
staying
think
open.
I think the other one that you brought it up was you always think, was I in the right place at the right time? And I've had those for me, and I've met amazing people through it. So I always go back to my time at Dev Jam. So if people that see this were working at Dev Jam or remember it, and I brought it up to you, it was for me. I've met so many great people. I learned so much, and so I try to replicate that for people that work for me or that I meet because it was so impactful for me, and I had so much fun learning from these people. So I look back again and go, at the time, didn't think about it. It was just something you did. You went and geeked out and hung out with these really, really, really intelligent people. But now I look back and go, that shaped a lot of how I think about technology and how these people were so smart and I got to be around them. Like, that's what people need. I want to create that for people so they get that feeling because it was awesome.
That's great. I love that. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that's an excellent piece of advice. And I think in a world that constantly is looking to turn everything into a transaction, how can I benefit? You're always, you see a lot of it out there. I think
Yes.
to just slow down and enjoy the human connections that are possible and what magic can maybe come from those.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I look at it. Try to look at it every day.
It's awesome. Well, last question for you. As we are still in the early months of 2024, can't believe April is less than, I don't know, a week away, but I am curious, what is top of mind for you this year? What do you want 2024 to be for you?
So I look at it in two things, personally and professionally. So personally for me, getting back and doing the things I enjoy, golfing, going to the lake with the family, getting back and doing more things with my friends, more things, being out there more, learning. is top of mind for me. I love to learn and feeling like I want to do that again. And then my wife and I go to concerts. So getting out there, going to concerts. Got 4 or 5 lined up this year, I think, and more if I can get in there. You know, part of that. And then professionally is getting energized and solving problems again. Really digging into problems, and I truly mean this. Continuing to work with awesome people like yourself, that gives me more energy than anything, and it's really inspiring, really motivating, and those are the things I want to seek out. Like we said, getting away from the negativity of things and like getting to the positive. And these things like this give me a lot of energy, and just having the conversation. So that's what I want to do this year. That's what my year is focused on, is those couple things.
That's wonderful. Well, I am so grateful that you shared all of your insights that you did today, because I learned a lot from you today too. I think even not being an engineer, there's so many universal opportunities here that's, it spans all different skill sets. And I'm just, old is new again. I think that it's so great that ultimately things are timeless, and great human connections, feeling like you're solving problems,
Yeah.
finding your purpose, and that doesn't always have to come from a job, but knowing why you're doing what you're doing is really important. So thank you for all of your insights. And I can't thank you enough. I could not do this journey. I could not have started Cupalo if I didn't have people like you in my corner. And I don't say that lightly. I'm so grateful for your friendship and your support, and for doing things like this with me, where you're furthering your message and helping change the world, and I truly mean that. So thank you, Dan, for doing this with me today.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. And likewise, it's been awesome. So, and watching your journey, and you're in my corner, and being able to share frustrations and happiness, and having a group of people, right? We keep growing. So thank you for everything.
Awesome. And like we said, if this goes belly up, I can always deliver pizza.
Yes, you can. Anywhere. There's plenty of pizza delivery out there. It's a growing economy. We call it a side hustle now.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again. And yeah, here's to a wonderful 2024 ahead of you.
Absolutely.